What's going on, guys, and welcome to episode 242 of Hashtag AskGSM here today for July 18th, 2018. I am Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well. Some breaking news on the social media front. Now, some of you may not give the slightest shit about this, but as of last night, I've officially joined Instagram. It took me 5, 6, 7, 8 years, however long it's been around for, but I'm finally on Instagram, at Instagram Ramina, like get it, like my name, whatever. Instagram, Graham, then my last name, Mirmina. Now, I debated using, like, Matthews in there, or GSM, or the Graham brand, but I figured it would sound a lot better if I did Instagram Ramina. So, anyway, guys, be sure to follow me there to put up my first post on Tuesday. I'm not sure how often I'll be posting, but I have an account, and that's the first step. But anyway, before we get started, if you guys want to tweet me with your questions for the show, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Leave a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, be sure to drop your question down below in the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. So we start off with Brandon A. from YouTube. Top 3 matches of the week, as always. Number 1 has got to be Mustache Mountain, Tyler Bate and Trent Seven versus Undisputed Era's Roderick Strong versus Kyle O'Reilly for the NXT Tag Team titles last Wednesday on NXT. Just an amazing match. Now, these top 3 matches of the week that I usually do stretch back a week, dating back to last week's episode of NXT, since it has not yet aired as of this recording. But that match in the main event of NXT last week was just remarkable from an in-ring standpoint, a storytelling standpoint, the finish, getting the belts back on O'Reilly and Strong. Everything about it was pure perfection, and infinitely better than anything else I saw at Extreme Rules on Sunday 3 days later. But that match was amazing and well worth checking out. From Impact, the very next night, the main event, or maybe it wasn't the main event, I think it was, the 6-man tag team match pitting OVE against Pentagon Jr., Phoenix, and Rich Swann. Again, just all action, exhilarating shit there. Everyone played their roles well. Great way to hype up the Sami Callihan versus Pentagon match at Slammiversary this coming Sunday. Great stuff there. Callahan went on Twitter and said, it was one of the best 6-man tag team matches in Impact history. I don't know if I would go that far exactly, but as a match, it was great, though. And again, like I said, well worth checking out. And finally, if I had to pick any one match from Extreme Rules to include here, it honestly would not be the main event between Rollins and Ziggler. I found it to be largely underwhelming. It was a very good match. Not great, but very good. The first 15 minutes were beyond boring, with the finishes and the falls being rushed by pinfall and disqualification, and some by submission, passing out, whatever. It really was not all that exciting until the final few minutes. And even the finish I thought was botched. Not botched, but kind of lame with the overtime, and then McIntyre screwed over Rollins and helped Ziggler retain the title. The whole thing I thought was very overbooked, to say the least, which I'll talk more about a little later on. But I thought the real match of the night for the WWE Championship was AJ Styles versus Rusev, which I thought was a great match, an awesome showing by Rusev. You had to know that he wasn't going to walk away as champion, but I still thought he looked really, really good in defeat, hopefully proving himself as a future top contender to that championship. Styles looking great as always, in what my opinion was easily the match of the night at Extreme Rules. Brandon's second question: are you going to go to the NXT show or the G1 Supercard event at Madison Square Garden for WrestleMania weekend? Now, when I heard the news break last Thursday, I was freaking out, because this is awesome. This is great news that Ring of Honor and New Japan are running a co-branded event for MSG. For the first time in over 60 years, we're getting a wrestling show at MSG that isn't WWE. That's very exciting in and of itself. It's over WrestleMania weekend. You know they're going to go balls to the wall, go all out for this thing. It's going to be obviously it's already a historic show, and we have no clue what even the match lineup's going to look like or who's going to be there. Because you never know who might leave Ring of Honor or New Japan between now and then. It's still 9 months away. But for the fact alone that it is the first non-WWE show in MSG for the first time in over half a century is historic alone. So again, I was freaking out when I heard that, because I am absolutely, no questions asked, going to WrestleMania weekend next year. Now, it's tough. I wish they did it on the Friday, because I really could not give two shits about going to a Hall of Fame. I might just go just for the sake of saying that I went to a Hall of Fame induction. but they're way too long, and they're usually enjoyable, but I'd rather go to like a Ring of Honor show or a New Japan show or a fucking whatever, an NXT show, something. So it does kind of suck they're going head-to-head, the Ring of Honor New Japan show and the NXT TakeOver. I've been to a TakeOver over WrestleMania weekend. The thing is that they've now held 3 over WrestleMania weekend. I went to easily the weakest of the 3 in Orlando, which was a very good show, but it was no TakeOver Houston or TakeOver Dallas from WrestleMania 32 weekend, and it wasn't any TakeOver New Orleans, which I thought to this day is still the best TakeOver they've ever done. So, I mean, again, it depends as we get closer. I know tickets are going on sale for that G1 Supercard show like next month. So it'll likely sell out by the time WrestleMania weekend comes around and people are still deciding what show to go to. I'll probably go to NXT. Depends, who I end up going with, what they want to go to, who they're familiar with. The MSG show I feel like would be more fun, but you can never go wrong with NXT. So, if it was like Mania, that might be a different story, but it's NXT, which usually is the best show of the weekend, with the exception of the weekend when I went last year into Orlando, and I thought WrestleMania 33 was better than TakeOver. But nonetheless, either one should be great. As of right now, I think I'm going to NXT. I talked to Jason about this earlier. The people that we might be going with are more familiar, obviously, with NXT than they are Ring of Honor or New Japan. So we'll likely end up going to NXT, unfortunately. I mean, that's not, I say unfortunately because it's going to be a great show. And WWE's going to see that MSG show and think, okay, we got to put our best foot forward here. Like they did this year, like Ring of Honor, Supercard of Honor, and the TakeOver New Orleans show went head-to-head. NXT easily outshined the New Japan or the Ring of Honor pay-per-view on Saturday, I thought. I mean, they were both very good shows. The TakeOver was infinitely better, so I'll probably end up going to TakeOver, but the MSG show would also be really cool to go to. And you can't go to both. One's in New York City at the Manhattan Center, or at the fucking... at Madison Square Garden. The other one's at the Barclays Center, which is a subway ride away, and it's not all that worth it. They're probably going to be at the same time. One's got to be, it's either really one or the other. You can't go to half and half. You got to go to all in on one, or all in on the other. And I'll likely go to NXT, but it'll be a tough toss-up between now and then. I mean, again, tickets go on sale for the MSG show in August, but I'll probably hold out and go to TakeOver, but that's the current plan as of right now. Ask me again in a few months. His third question, I'm taking WrestleManias and Money in the Bank 2011 off the board. What pay-per-view from each decade, the 80s, 90s, 2000s, and 2010s, would you go back and attend if you could? That's a great question. So taking, obviously, Money in the Bank 2011 off the board, which obviously I've answered before. If there was any one show I can go back in time and be in attendance for, it would be Money in the Bank 2011 from 7 years ago yesterday. Or an old WrestleMania like WrestleMania 17. Taking those pay-per-views off the board, because those would be the most obvious answers. The 80s did not have many pay-per-views to begin with, and I'm going solely WWE here. I mean, WCW, ECW, that shit is great, but I'm only going WWE stuff here. The WWE did not have many pay-per-views in the 80s, but if I had to choose just one, probably SummerSlam 88, just because it was the first ever SummerSlam. It's not WrestleMania, which is not included here anyway. Took place at Madison Square Garden. Ultimate Warrior winning the Intercontinental Championship in electric fashion. That'd be so great to go back and relive that in person. From the 90s, this might surprise some people, but In Your House, Canadian Stampede 97. Now, I knew that was a great show going into when I watched it last year, but I had no clue it was as good as it was when I rewatched it, or watched it for the first time, rather, in its entirety, like in the spring of 2017. The pay-per-view was fucking awesome. For a 2-hour TakeOver-like show, I thought it was amazing. The main event was great. Taker and Vader was very, very good. You had Hunter Hearst Helmsley versus Mankind in a great opener, a great light heavyweight championship match, or at least a match that was between two light heavyweights. I'm not sure if there's a championship on the line or not, but whole show, fucking awesome. So again, if there was any one show from the 90s I would go back and watch, it would easily be that one. From the 2000s, again, might be a surprise answer, but I've always loved this show to death. And it was from when I was a fan, Backlash 2009. I really, really enjoyed that event. I go back and watch it almost on the anniversary or near the anniversary every single year. You had John Cena and Edge in a last man standing match, the World Heavyweight Championship. You had a 6-man tag team match for the WWE title between Legacy, Triple H, Batista, and who was the other? Shane McMahon. That was the other person. You had Jeff Hardy versus Matt Hardy in an I Quit match. You had Chris Jericho versus Ricky Steamboat. You had CM Punk versus Kane. Santina versus fucking, the Great Khali, whatever, Beth Phoenix. That shit was awful. But you also had Christian winning the ECW championship from Jack Swagger. 3 different title changes, one great night. I know RJ is going to hold that over my head till the day I die because he was at that show. You can see him on network replay in like one of the first few rows, not ringside, but like in the stadium seating. I will always be jealous of him for that because that show was great. And it did not take place too far from me. I mean, at that point, I had never been to a WWE show. So it was out of the cards anyway, but it was at the same arena I ended up going to later on that year for my first SmackDown show, my first SmackDown taping in November of 2009, the Dunkin' Donuts Center in Rhode Island. It's a very good arena, not the best, but very good. Small, but, and a lot of energy, a lot of good fans there. And that show I will never forget, and I don't regret not going because I never had the chance to go anyway. But that would have been a great show to go to. Either that or ECW One Night Stand 05 or 06, either one. Probably 06, but both shows were amazing. And from the 2010s, again, obviously my answer would be Money in the Bank 2011, but taking that off the board and any other WrestleManias. Extreme Rules 2011, which saw Christian win the World Heavyweight Championship. That was a great show. That took place in Florida. I couldn't go to that anyway, even if I wanted to. I did not start traveling to go to wrestling shows until like last year. But that would have been cool to go to. Or SummerSlam 2013, one of my favorite SummerSlams of all time. That was such a great show. Christian and Del Rio for the World Heavyweight Championship. John Cena versus Daniel Bryan for the WWE Championship. The in-ring debut of Bray Wyatt. CM Punk versus Brock Lesnar, one of my favorite matches, period, in WWE's history. That show was great. Battleground 2016 would be an honorable mention. A lot of great shows from the 2010s. I would love to take a DeLorean and go back and rewatch in person. Captain Sunshine from YouTube as well. Could you describe Bobby Roode's character without using the words glorious or robe? Boring, I guess might be the right word. Bland, another one. Lame. Someone brought this up on Twitter a couple days ago, like during Raw. But why the fuck should anyone care about Bobby Roode, a guy that when everyone else was interrupting the opening segment and laying their claim to become the WWE's Universal Champion and wanting a shot at that title, Bobby Roode comes out for a shot at the Intercontinental Championship, and he still lost, because the guy's a fucking loser. If you can get made fun of backstage by Mojo Rawley, then you know you're a fucking loser. The guy's a loser. He's a loser. He should be a heel right now. I'm not sure if that would solve too much because they've done a lot of damage to him since he came up to the main roster. But the guy is so beyond boring, it's ridiculous. And it's so sad to see, too, because he was great in Impact. He was great in NXT. What the fuck happened? It was all downhill from the night they called him up as a babyface, to be quite honest. It was all downhill from that point forward because to cast this guy as a babyface, at least at this point, was a fucking disaster, and he is yet to recover. Emmanuel A. from YouTube, have you heard the quote-unquote rumors? I'm glad you put it in quotation marks, and I'll explain in a second why. Some people have made about Bobby Lashley versus Brock Lesnar being the main event of SummerSlam with Hulk Hogan as the special guest enforcer, so that when Bobby Lashley presumably wins the Universal Championship, Hulk Hogan will be the first to endorse WWE's first black Universal Champion. So I'm glad, again, like I said, that you put rumors in quotation marks, because it's not a rumor. I saw the exact same thing that you did on Twitter on Monday night, Tuesday, whatever. From Ryan Satin of Pro Wrestling Sheet, the former TMZ reporter, very credible source. He even said in the fucking tweet that it was not a rumor or even speculation. It was merely an idea. That what do you think that in so many words, he was basically saying, do you think WWE would actually have Hulk Hogan be the referee or enforcer, whatever the fuck, for that match, so we can endorse the first ever black WWE Universal Champion? Again, anything's possible. They've done dumb stuff like that before, maybe not to that extreme, but they've done dumb stuff before. They have definitely done a lot of stupid stuff over the years, so it would surprise me, but not entirely. But it's not happening. It's not a rumor. It's not speculation. It won't happen. Hulk Hogan, he could be at SummerSlam. I'm not denying that. I'm glad he's back in the Hall of Fame. I'll talk more about Hulk Hogan momentarily. But no, it's not happening. People should not believe that it's happening. Take it for what it is. Not a rumor, not speculation, merely an idea. It's no more of an idea than me saying that CM Punk is coming back at SummerSlam to face fucking AJ Styles for the WWE Championship. It's not happening. It's only an idea, and it won't happen. So Again, guys, take it for what it is. But even if that did happen, it would be fucking stupid. It would easily be the worst thing that you could do if it was to actually happen, because it would be so transparent that Hogan, WWE, whoever, would be wanting to win back over that audience that he offended. And I don't think he ever will, to be honest with you. There's going to be a lot of people to the day that he dies, and even well after he dies, that will never respect Hulk Hogan again, or never look at him the same way again. I don't think anyone will anyway, regardless, will look at him. I think people will look at him differently no matter what, compared to 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago, with all the shit that's happened to this guy in the last decade alone. But again, to just force feed people that, hey, I'm not racist, look at me endorsing this black guy as world champion, would be fucking stupid. Would be dumb. So I hope they don't do it. I don't think they will do it, so nothing to worry about. Deshaun K from Facebook, or not Deshaun, I'm sorry, Daniel K. We got another person with the last name. We got Deshaun K is coming up soon. Daniel K from Facebook. Do you think they're using Ronda Rousey right? Recently, yeah. I think overall, all things considered, dating back to her debut at the Rumble, I would say they have been. They've been largely protecting her. She had a great match at WrestleMania. She had a really, really good match with Nia Jax and Money in the Bank. A lot better than I thought it would be, to be honest with you. She's come across like a badass in her recent appearances on Raw. Less is more with her on the mic. She's really not the greatest talker. And the hairstyles come and go. Whatever the hell she was wearing, or however the hell she was wearing her hair on Monday, looked beyond dumb. She looked like from an episode of Dragon Ball Z, but like 10 times worse. Sorry to any anime fans out there that like Dragon Ball Z, but it looked fucking stupid. At least on Ronda Rousey. So that stuff aside, she really has been doing great work with WWE. She's been really coming into her own as a performer quite quickly, a lot quicker than I think a lot of people imagined that she would. But yeah, overall, I think they're booking her very well. And we'll see how she does against Alexa at SummerSlam. But I think so far her matches have exceeded expectations. Her performances just in general have exceeded expectations. And she still has the crowd going nuts for her. The crowd goes nuts every single time she shows up at one of these WWE shows, whether it be Raw or a pay-per-view or whatever. She's got the crowd behind her, and largely that's really all that matters because she keeps on delivering. Jeremy B. from Facebook's got a few questions here. First one being, do you think the seeds were planted for a possible Miz versus Bryan for the WWE title match at WrestleMania on SmackDown this week? Yes and no. I do think the seeds were planted for Miz versus Bryan, but not at WrestleMania. They would not have done that segment if the plan was not to have Bryan face Miz at SummerSlam. That's where they're going with this, because otherwise, why would you have done that? I mean, I guess you could announce Daniel Bryan as the next number one contender to the WWE Championship, but like fucking why? The guy just lost to the Bludgeon Brothers. It would make no sense. AJ and Bryan would be amazing. I mean, again, in a perfect world, I would love to see Daniel Bryan and The Miz at WrestleMania. I've said this before, but I would absolutely love to see Miz win the championship between now and then, and then Daniel Bryan be in chase mode, and then win the Rumble, and then whatever. Great long-term storytelling, but they're not even sure if Daniel Bryan's going to resign. As of right now, I don't think he has. I think it's pretty likely that he will. But still, you never know. You can't let the guy go without having, the most anticipated feud in years occur before he likely leaves. I mean, not likely, but possibly leaves. So they're definitely doing it at SummerSlam, which I'm fine by, because if it's not at WrestleMania, it might as well be at the second biggest pay-per-view of the year at SummerSlam. But I would hope that the build and the match gets the time it deserves and doesn't get fucking slighted by like Roman Reigns versus God knows who. Probably Brock Lesnar, let's be honest. But yeah, I think Miz and Bryan is happening at SummerSlam. I would wait until WrestleMania, but I doubt that's the direction they're going with that. Just because, again, with SummerSlam being 3 weeks away, it's right around the corner, maybe 5 weeks away. I find it very hard to believe they would kick off Bryan's next program on SmackDown with The Miz and then not have them face off on at fucking SummerSlam. So again, I find that hard to believe, and I don't think that's happening, but it should be a great match / feud nonetheless. Their segment on SmackDown this week, I thought was great, by the way. His second question, do you think we will see Almas as WWE Champion and Zelina as SmackDown Women's Champion sometime in 2019? I don't think so. I mean, I don't think they see Zelina Vega as a wrestler, and we know from past matches of hers, like in NXT house shows and in Impact, that she can go, but at the same time, I think they see her more as a mouthpiece, as a manager for Andrade. And Almas is great. He had a great match with AJ on Tuesday. He'll be just fine. I don't think he's going to win the WWE Championship by next year. I'd be shocked, honestly. I think they see him at a certain spot on the card, where he could be like a top mid-carder, maybe not the guy on SmackDown. I'd be shocked if they ever gave him the championship, period. let alone, in 2019. But again, wishful thinking, we'll see. I would love to see Almas as WWE Champion simultaneously while Zelina as the SmackDown Women's Champion. It'd be awesome. I'm not expecting it, but we'll see. But that would be an awesome dream scenario for the power couple to be ruling SmackDown Live with the 2 top titles on the show. His third question, is it just me or has Carmella's match has gotten worse since winning the SmackDown Women's title? Honestly, they have been. Slowly but surely, the matches have been getting worse and worse. And okay, let's analyze this for a second. So we had Carmella and Charlotte at Backlash. The match sucked. Easily the worst Charlotte match I've seen in years on the main roster. That match sucked. Carmella and Asuka at Money in the Bank was better than that, but still not good. Easily the weakest match on the entire show, besides the fucking glorified squash between Bobby and Sami Zayn. Other than that, that was the weakest match on a 10-match card. And then you get to Sunday's Money in the Bank or Extreme Rules pay-per-view. Carmella against Asuka again, this time with James Ellsworth in the fucking shark cage. It was awful. The match was fucking terrible. An absolute embarrassment. The girl can't cut it in the ring. I'm sorry. She's got charisma. She can talk. She can easily generate heat. But in the ring, she is absolutely awful. Which is why I hope to God Becky Lynch beats her on Tuesday SmackDown next week. And then she beats her for the belt at SummerSlam. Because I am so sick of seeing Carmella as SmackDown Women's Champion. The whole act with Ellsworth does nothing for me. None of what she does anything for me at all. I think there are better choices, or better people to put that belt on right now than Carmella. They tried. It hasn't worked. Time to move on. Deshaun K from Facebook. Do you think Pete Dunne's run as UK champion is starting to run its course? I don't think so. I really don't think so. I think if he continues to deliver in every match that he's in, it really doesn't matter. In the last few matches I've seen him in alone, on NXT, in the UK show, the match with Zach Gibson, outstanding. I'm not even really aware too much of Gibson, but the match they had at the NXT UK Championship special a few weeks ago was outstanding. Before that, he faced Kyle O'Reilly in an episode of NXT for the UK Championship. Again, another fucking amazing match. He had a great match with Roderick Strong a few months ago, I should say. He continues to deliver when the lights are on bright. Another very good match with Adam Cole on NXT TV a few months back as well. So again, I'm not really like, oh, they should take the belt off Dunne. This person deserves it much more. Who? Who should take that belt and beat Dunne? Until someone rises up and makes me think they're a worthy successor to Pete Dunne as UK champion, then I'll say, yeah, they should have taken the championship off of him. But right now, he is on a completely different level. He is on an entirely different level. Therefore, just keep the belt on him. His second question here. Would the Pittsburgh crowd have been less hostile if AJ Styles and Rusev main evented Extreme Rules? And do you blame Pittsburgh, for shitting on the horrendous overbooked Iron Man match? And would it have been better if it was a 2 out of 3 falls match, no disqualification? Okay, so a lot to dissect here. Would the crowd have been less hostile if it was AJ and Rusev? So they weren't exactly hostile. You got to choose your words. You got to choose your words wisely here, my friend. They weren't hostile. They just got bored very, very easily, and they started chanting for the fucking countdown clock. And they weren't all that excited about anything they did, just because the match wasn't that exciting, to be quite honest with you. It was at the point where they did one fall after a fall after a fall after a fall, and no one cared because they got 6 falls out of the way in the first 15 minutes of the match. The same 2 people who had a 30-minute match on Raw and only had not even 1 fall because the match ended in a DQ. It just made no sense. So I don't blame the crowd for getting restless, might be the better word, during the match on Sunday. It was a very good match. By no means great, though. I think the crowd would have reacted a lot better if AJ and Rusev went on last. Then again, though, I'm not sure if we can be so certain about that, just because it was pretty predictable that AJ was going to win. But still, it was a very good match, in my opinion. Like I said earlier, the match of the night at Extreme Rules. But I don't think the match was horrendous. It was overbooked. You got that part right. I don't think it's horrendous, though, was Rollins and Ziggler. 2 out of 3 falls would have been fine. I feel like, again, you can't do that in the main event just because it is too predictable. Because you know in the fucking main event, they're not going to go 2-0 in the main event for the IC title. I mean, they've done that before in the opener and sometimes in the middle of a card or an episode of SmackDown or Raw or even NXT. Never in the main event of a pay-per-view. So you knew that it was going to go 3 falls even in that sense. Personally, if they were going to do an Iron Man match, which sounded amazing on paper, the execution was just poor. If they were going to do that, have them go no falls until the final 5 minutes. And even then, I would have it be a lot like Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart from WrestleMania 12, where it takes like one final blow from either Ziggler or Rollins to win the match in the final few seconds, or even in overtime. Just the way they did it seemed really, really poor, and they could have booked it out a lot better than they did. But yeah, that was my 2 cents in the Iron Man match. Again, I don't know if it was horrendous, but it really wasn't what it should have been, to be quite honest. Deshaun's third question here. Let's say the Brooklyn crowd at SummerSlam is not completely hostile. Now, this is the right usage for this word. Is not completely hostile with the rest of the matches on the card except for the main event, which will feature Roman Reigns and the Universal Championship in some capacity. Would that crowd be in the wrong for entertaining and getting themselves over if WWE planned to end the night by having Roman Reigns win the Universal Championship and miraculously be a fresh Braun Strowman who tries to seize the opportunity to cash in and fails? Now, I can guarantee you that is not happening. They are not going to have Braun cash in after the match, after Roman. We all know he's going to fucking win. Don't even try to argue about it. Do not even try to argue with me on that. Roman Reigns is beating Brock Lesnar for the Universal Championship. It should be Lashley. It should be Seth Rollins, to be quite honest. If we're being totally honest there, it should be Seth Rollins. Whatever. It should not be Roman Reigns. No one gives a shit anymore about Roman and Brock fucking Part 97. It's time to move on. That being said, even if Roman does win and they end the evening with Braun cashing in, he's not going to lose. Maybe if it was like fucking Damian Sandow, I would get it, like a la 3, 4, 5 years ago. With Braun Strowman, someone they've protected as heavily as they have over the last year or two, they're not having him come out fresh and then getting beat by Roman in the matter of fucking 60 seconds. That would be so stupid. They're not going to do it, so don't worry about it. Unless they're turning Roman heel, which they obviously are not. They won't do it. And that would also bury Braun Strowman. I don't use that word lightly. Bury. But they would absolutely be burying Braun Strowman if they had him come out after Roman wins the belt and then have him lose to Roman Reigns. That would be so fucking stupid. But yeah, the crowd, it goes both ways because a lot of people shit on the crowd in Pittsburgh for doing the whole countdown clock. Now, that was just fucking annoying. I understand wanting to entertain yourselves during a very boring match. And it's on WWE, and to an extent the performers, to put on a more exciting match and give them something they can get, enthralled in or engaged by. It would be one thing if the match was great and the crowd pooped all over it. It wasn't a great match. It was a very good match. Now, with Roman and Brock, we know the match is probably going to be shit. I know their WrestleMania 31 match was great, but that was under different circumstances. The WrestleMania match sucked. The Greatest Royal Rumble match sucked. The SummerSlam main event will be no exception. So they are absolutely in the right to poop all over that match. Just because, again, it goes back to what I was saying last week. Oh, it's Roman Reigns, so let's shit all over it. No one cares about Roman and fucking Brock Lesnar again. The crowd didn't shit all over Roman and Bobby Lashley from Extreme Rules because, one, it was a good match. And second of all, we hadn't seen it a million times. So it's different. I don't want to hear people say, oh, you're just going to poop all over it. You're just going to try to hijack the show just because Roman Reigns and everyone hates Roman Reigns. Yeah, because no one fucking cares. Him and Jinder was not a good match, and no one gave a shit. Why should I give a shit? Roman and Rollins would be great. Roman and Bobby, Part 3, maybe not. But, Roman and Brock, absolutely not. They are absolutely in the right to tell the company that it's not the match they want to see. We saw the same thing happen at WrestleMania. We had a fucking beach ball going around the audience in the main event of WrestleMania this year in the match between Brock and Roman Reigns. Why? Because people did not want to fucking see the match. And I do not blame them for that. Oh, the beach ball is so disrespectful. And I agree when they were doing it during Ambrose and Rollins. And it's not just because they're fucking indie darlings. But the match was great between the Shield guys and the Bar at SummerSlam. We got a fucking beach ball. I agree. I hate the beach ball. The waving shit, I'm not too against. Just because if it's during the right match at the right moment when, it's during a match I could give two shits about, then it's fine. Roman and Brock is pretty much the type of match those chants and that type of stuff was made for. Beach balls were made for Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar. That's how little people care about seeing that match again in the main event of SummerSlam. Muhammad D from Facebook. Recently, if you don't know this, Video Assistant Referee, VAR, was used at the recent All Japan Pro Wrestling Weekly television show in a comedic manner. Now seeing that VAR has been implemented during the recently concluded FIFA Soccer World Cup to mix results, do you think any wrestling promotions like WWE are able to implement VAR seriously in refereeing matches in the future? where there are cases of questionable pinfalls, outside interference, etc. It's a cool concept, but they would never do it. At least not on the regular. With WWE, how inconsistent have they been in the past? Where they've done a shitty finish where like a heel cheats to win, and then that's it. There's no like replays. There's no nothing to show that the heel went. You can't have a replay in every match because it completely defeats the purpose of pro wrestling. You can't have an instant replay all the time. So for that reason alone, I wouldn't do it. Second of all, WWE is so fucking inconsistent with their shit. Remember a few years ago, during like Del Rio and Swagger, they had an I Quit match at Extreme Rules like 5 years ago. Swagger won by beating Del Rio. I think he did the whole like tape trick where he recorded him saying I quit, but it wasn't actually him. So Swagger wins. The match gets restarted because the referee sees on a monitor at ringside that Swagger cheated. We never saw the instant replay ever again after that. They only do it whenever it's convenient for the company. So for those two reasons alone, I don't think they will do it, and I don't think they should do it. Muhammad's second question. Do you see the mediocre booking for the main WWE programming lately? Do you think it'll change once we head into WrestleMania post SummerSlam, or will the trend continue? It's going to continue. I think we're well past the point of where like, oh, it's WrestleMania season, WWE TV will be a lot better. Will it, though? Will it really be all that better? Like, I don't remember watching too many amazing episodes of Raw and SmackDown on the road to WrestleMania 34. I don't know about you guys, but the build to WrestleMania 34 was kind of sort of shit between Raw and SmackDown combined. It really wasn't that good. The pay-per-views I thought were decent. Elimination Chamber, Fastlane, Royal Rumble I thought was great. And the actual TV shows I thought were kind of shit, but that's just me. So I think we're well past the point of we're like, oh, it's time for SummerSlam. It's going to be a lot better. I don't think so. If anything, it's only going to get worse because we go into the fall season. The fall season is always typically the worst season to be a wrestling fan because the ratings are in the shitter and they just put forth no effort. Almost every single fall season, they just fucking roll over and die because they know they're going to get their asses kicked by football. If they just recently got the lowest Raw rating of all time during the summer in the month of July, that's not a good indication for the fall season. That record is getting broken. I can guarantee you of that. That record is getting broken come this fall. But yeah, I do think the trend will continue until they put forth some actual effort and at least making Raw more must-see. Because SmackDown, I think, is fine. I think SmackDown is entertaining to watch more often than not. Raw is the brand that really needs help right now, and that's not going to change until they actually realize their mistakes, realize that Raw is kind of sort of shit right now, and put in the effort into making the show better. At Reborn Again from Twitter, you can check out John Ritland on YouTube as well. Real Honesty with John Ritland, great show, great guy. His question was, he's got two questions here. First one being, assuming Becky wins the SmackDown Women's title at SummerSlam, would a feud between her and heel Asuka work for the fall season? I think so. I love that idea a lot, actually. I really love the idea of a babyface Becky versus a heel Asuka. I think with Asuka now, you gotta turn her heel. And we know she can work as a heel, too. I mean, she was still getting babyface reactions more often than not. But she was, come on, don't tell me that she wasn't a heel for the final, 6-7 months that she was in NXT, because she pretty much was. And she was a great heel. She was great at being a bitch and, being cocky about being undefeated. It was awesome. The character development with Asuka in NXT was really something to behold, that they've kind of lost their way with since she came up to the main roster. At least since she got beaten at WrestleMania. But anyway, I love Becky and Asuka. We've yet to see it one-on-one. Becky really needs a top, a credible heel to work with. That's what the SmackDown Women's Division needs right now. Charlotte would be a good fit, but for whatever reason, they don't want to turn her anytime soon. Asuka would fit the bill. She's been losing a lot recently anyway. It would make sense for her to go heel on Becky because Asuka failed to win the championship twice at Money in the Bank and Backlash or Extreme Rules was the other pay-per-view that she lost the championship at, or lost the championship match at. So she lost twice. It makes sense for her to go heel, especially against the woman that will likely win the championship at SummerSlam. And the match will be great. I don't think we've ever seen Becky and Asuka one-on-one. Asuka showed up in NXT right after Becky got called up to the main roster back in 2015. So I don't think we've ever seen it one-on-one, at least not on TV. I think they had a match in Japan at a house show they did a couple months ago, but beyond that, we've never seen Becky Asuka one-on-one. And I think that'd be a great match to do over the SmackDown Women's Championship at some point. Come the fall, like I said, because that's usually the dead period for WWE, and if they won't turn Charlotte it might as well be Asuka, because at this point she's drowning as a babyface, especially having her get beat the way that she has the last 2 or 3 pay-per-views. She looks like a fucking loser. They have to turn her and at least try to restore some of that lost luster and credibility. John's second question here: with the recent injuries in the past couple of months, is WWE reaching the point where rotating time off for the talents is necessary, or are we way past that point? I mean, I always thought that was a great idea and a great thing to try with the talent, just because with those guys, I mean, I think it'd be a great idea in theory. You know, you have someone on the road for 9 months, you give them 3 months off, you know, you kind of do that with a rotating schedule. At this point, they've done what they've been doing for so long now, for 50 years, and I don't think they would ever try doing that unless they were hurt. It's just the way the business works, at least the way the WWE works. They want people 24/7 on all the house shows, all the media. I don't see that happening, at least under the management of Vince McMahon, maybe Triple H, knowing, what the wrestlers have to go through, knowing himself, the toll that it takes on the competitors to wrestle every single night for like 365 days a year for the most part. Maybe Triple H would attempt to implement that at some point when he takes over down the road. Anytime soon, though, I don't think it's going to happen. I do think this rigorous road schedule they're on is absolutely to blame for all the injuries these people have. And I think having the brand split helps because, they have the Raw shows and the SmackDown people get some of those days off. So I think it helps in that sense. But nevertheless, I think it would be a lot better if we had a rotating schedule where people weren't getting as hurt and as injured as frequently as they have been in recent years. At Scarlet1 from Twitter, this may be too much of a personal question, but do you think Terry Bollea, aka Hulk Hogan, is a sincerely decent human being or severely flawed human being? That's a great question. With Hulk Hogan, it's really unfair to say that he's one or the other. I think everyone, not only Hulk Hogan, is both. I think everyone is flawed, and everyone can be a decent human being. Maybe not 100% of people, but I think even decent human beings can be flawed. Or severely flawed might be, a little more accurate when it comes to Hulk Hogan, especially in the last 10 years or so. I think Hulk Hogan, if I had to choose one over the other, I would say sincerely decent human being, because I don't see him being on the same level as some other pieces of shit that we've seen come through wrestling and just in life in general over the years. And he's done some pretty deplorable stuff from what he did in the tape. Obviously, that got him booted from WWE a few years ago, the center of the whole controversy recently. And he always will be. It didn't matter if they brought him back on Sunday or 5 years down the road or 20 years down the road. That controversy will always surround Hulk Hogan till the day he dies and even well past that point. His legacy in WWE has been tainted because of all the shit that he's gone through over the last 10 years. But he's still one of the biggest, if not the biggest name in wrestling history. That being said, decent human being versus flawed human being. He is definitely more flawed than most. I don't think he's a bad human being, but again, you can't give one or the other. You can't say one or the other. It's really a mixture of both. But again, if I had to choose, probably sincerely decent human being. I've never met the guy. I don't know the guy. I can't say that he might be a piece of shit. I have no clue. I have no idea. I've never met the guy. I've never exchanged 2 words with him in my life, let alone known him for years on end. So I think people that he knows obviously might be better suited to answer that question. I know what you're going for here with your question. But again, just from my personal experience, seeing Hulk Hogan, what he's gone through, what he'll likely continue to go through in the years to come with the whole controversy and everything else surrounding Hogan right now, I would definitely say it's more the former than he is the latter. But again, it's all subjective. It's all a matter of personal opinion. If people don't want to forgive Hulk Hogan for what he said and what he's done over the years, that's completely fine. Again, it's all up to the human being. And what he said years ago, what happened a decade ago, but only resurfaced 3 years ago, it affected everyone differently. So obviously how it affected me is different than how it might affect someone that's black that obviously he talked about in the video. So again, it's different for everyone. But with Hulk Hogan, I think it is time to bring him back into WWE, maybe not a regular role on television. I don't really think that's necessary regardless of what he has done and said over the years. The guy is almost 60 years old. He can barely walk at this point. So he doesn't exactly need to be like a general manager on Raw or SmackDown or really have any sort of on-air regular role on TV. But to have him back as an ambassador and kind of teaching people to be careful of what you say and what you do, especially now in the age of social media and everything else where people are watching you 24/7. I think that's a good life lesson, a good reason to have him around. But again, if people want to feel a certain way about Hulk Hogan, that is entirely up to them. But Scarlet One's second question here, best and worst of Extreme Rules 2018. The whole show I did not think was good. I don't know if it was the worst show of the year. Backlash was worse, I'd say, in the whole. But the entire show kind of sucked on the whole. The build sucked. The execution sucked. There were only a handful of matches I thought were pretty good, like AJ and Rusev. The main event was good. Not great, but it was good. And that's really about it. I mean, the B team winning the tag team titles, who gives a shit? I'm trying to think of other stuff that happened on the show. Carmella and Asuka, fucking who cares? Nia Jax and Ronda Rousey, total shit. Or Nia Jax and Alexa Bliss, was total shit. People only really cared about Ronda Rousey being there. The match itself was garbage. So the bad outweighed the good, I thought, with the pay-per-view. The best was, like I said, AJ and Rusev, and even Sanity and New Day. I thought the kickoff show was very good between Almas Sin Cara and Sanity and New Day. Everything else on the actual show did nothing for me. The Hardy and Nakamura, it wasn't even a match, but what they did there I thought was interesting. The Orton stuff was interesting too. That was the best thing on the whole show up to that point. But yeah, the real match of the night to me was AJ and Rusev, and everything else was just kind of like meh in comparison. Final two questions here from @Unsolved22 from Twitter. Is Brock Lesnar hated more now as the non-existent Universal Champion, or when he conquered the streak? That is an awesome fucking question. In terms of amount of heat that he's gotten, definitely when he broke the streak. Because you could barely hear Paul Heyman talk when he broke the streak, and then Paul Heyman came out the next night to gloat about it on Raw. And then every time he brought it up after that fact, he was booed out of the building, both Heyman and Brock Lesnar, despite the fact that Brock was even beloved back then. So more heat in terms of like matches and shit, more heat that he was getting when he came out to make appearances. Definitely when he conquered the streak, but as the non-existent Universal Champion, I think he's been getting more people to hate him, like, just in general. Like, who cares about Brock Lesnar as champion? I'm ready for this shit to be done. There might be more heat on the company than Brock Lesnar, but there is definitely more people who hate Brock Lesnar now that I've seen online, people that I've talked to. There are many more people now that dislike Brock Lesnar than there were 4 years ago when he broke the streak. I think people blame the company for them breaking the streak, and people, were like, oh, Brock doesn't deserve it, but it didn't lead to actual heat and people hating him like they do now. So I would say, again, wrestling heat when he broke the streak, and then in reality, like in terms of how many like heat among fans in real life, definitely the non-existing Universal Champion, no doubt. Final question @ColinTMM. His question was a bit of a joke question here, but with the WWE rumor to be bringing back some old WCW pay-per-views, which ones would you want to see back on the WWE schedule? They brought back a few already. I know they brought back Starrcade, wasn't it? For a house show gimmick late last year, which was cool. There's really no reason to bring it back as a pay-per-view. I mean, then again, anything is better than fucking Extreme Rules or Hell in a Cell or TLC again. So I would take those pay-per-views over the fucking WWE watered-down stipulation gimmick shows. But Starrcade, it was special because it was like their WrestleMania. It would not be their WrestleMania in WWE, of course, so I would not do it. Fall Brawl would be a cool thing. It wasn't really all that special. Like War Games is already kind of a thing for NXT, so probably not that. Clash of Champions they brought back a few years ago. Clash of the Champions, whatever. I think they just got rid of that, if I'm not mistaken. I heard they replaced that with TLC in December. So, anyway. They already had that. They got rid of that. In my opinion, without a doubt, Halloween Havoc. I've been saying this for years now, but I'm a big Halloween fan. I love Halloween. Bringing that pay-per-view back with the set and all would be fucking great. And here's the thing. There is no better year to do that for. And then, like you said, it's a joke question. They're not actually bringing back old WCW pay-per-views like for all of their shows. But really, let's analyze this for a second. The October pay-per-view was supposed to be TLC, because Hell in a Cell, for whatever reasons, in September this year. They moved TLC to December, replacing, reportedly, Clash of Champions. So, as a result, there was no pay-per-view in October. Now, they do have the Australian show, the Super Showdown, whatever the fuck it is, and that's fine. And, that should be a good show. And I'm all for less pay-per-views and less big specials each year. I'm all for that. Don't get me wrong. We just had Greatest Royal Rumble. It was the greatest pile of shit I've ever seen overall. Didn't care about it. all things considered. But anyway, the Australia show should be a bit better. Hopefully it's worthwhile. But that being said, if they wanted to have an actual pay-per-view that month, later on in the month, like whatever it was supposed to be in October, like October, I think it was the 27th or the 20th, if I remember correctly. I can't remember off the top of my head. Why not bring back Halloween Havoc? It's the month of October. I don't see why not. They could always bring back No Mercy or King of the Ring would be cool, but I think Halloween Havoc, if we're being serious here for a moment, I think would be fucking awesome. I don't know if they would do the set the exact same way. I doubt they would. They don't put effort into any sets these years nowadays, except for WrestleMania, so they would never bring back the old set. But again, as a Halloween show, not every match has to be a fucking trick or street fight. I'm not saying that, but just the general theme of a Halloween themed show, I think would be cool. And that's what I would put in that October slot in for WWE. I think it'd be awesome. So anyway, guys, that does it for episode 242 of #AskGSM here today for July 18th, 2018. If I'm not mistaken, that was episode 242. Let me just double check here so I'm not giving you guys fake news here, any false information. Yeah, it is episode 242. But again, guys, thank you for checking out the show. I appreciate it. If you want to send a question to the show, tweet me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the #AskGSM. You can find me on Facebook as well at facebook.com/Graham.gsm.Matthews. Give the page an old thumbs up. Leave a comment on the page, or the post rather, that I put up on Tuesday nights, if not the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, be sure to find me here on YouTube as well in the comment section on this very video right down below. Leave your question there. I'll include it in next week's edition. Also, be sure to follow me on the Instagram as well, as I said at the start of the show, at Instagram Marmina, at Insta, GRAHAMMIRMINA. So follow me there for more dumb stuff as they embark on the journey that is Instagram. So anyway, guys, we'll be back next Wednesday with another all-new episode of #AskGSM. Until then, have a great rest of your week/weekend. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.